the elegant magistrate Jinxi, or the thick version of Makima, Changli. Both characters will be impacting the meta significantly, showcasing immense power, great animations, amazing personality, and leaving many players in complete distress on who to summon for. So I'm gonna go through some standouts from both of their kits, how they would impact the meta, their team flexibility, and ultimately, the value and longevity they will have in your account. Just before we jump right into it, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. I'll kick it off with a few standouts from Changli's kit. Changli is a fusion DPS character with great flexibility, allowing her to take the spotlight as the main DPS or dominate as the sub DPS. Similar to Jinxi, Changli will be able to attack whilst in midair and has two additional states, being the True Sight state and the Fiery Feather state. Changli can enter True Sight either through completing 4 basic attacks, activating the Resonant skill, or through the intro skill, lasting for 12 seconds. Whilst in True Sight, Changli's basic attacks will be considered as Resonant skill damage and will be able to accumulate stacks of Inflamement, which stack up to a max of 4 stacks. Changli will gain 1 stack of Inflamement for every True Sight basic attack, mid-air attack, and will gain all 4 stacks when she pops her Resonant Celebration. Once Changli has all 4 stacks of Inflamament and uses her heavy attack Flaming Vow, which is also considered as Resonant skill damage, she will enter the Fiery Feather state, which lasts for 10 seconds. Whilst in the Fiery Feather state, her attack is increased by 25%, so she will be hitting like a truck. Changli's outro skill is what enables her to be an amazing sub DPS character, as she increases the next Resonator's fusion damage by 20% and Resonance Liberation damage by 25%. So this outro skill is literally the fusion version of Yinlin's outro skill, so it holds a ton of value, as she will be able to play as a sub DPS character for every fusion main DPS character to drop later on. So Changli is in a very similar situation to Yinlin, as they both can dominate in the main DPS position, and when they are eventually power crept, they would still be very powerful sub DPS characters supporting future meta characters. Now I'm gonna briefly go over Jinxi's kit standout since most of you would know how she works by now. Jinxi is a Spectral DPS character and has 2 different states, being the Incarnation state and the Ordination Glow state. Jinxi enters the Incarnation state through using basic attacks to fill her forte gauge and then activating the Resonant skill. Whilst in the Incarnation state, Jinxi's basic attacks deal damage considered as Resonant skill damage and can deal attacks whilst in midair. After dealing 4 basic attacks in the Incarnation state, Jinxi enters the Ordination Glow state. In this state, her basic attacks switch into heavy attacks and will be able to activate the Illuminous Epiphany skill, which is the nuclear scale attack within her kit, as she can stack additional damage multipliers to the skill. The most unique trait from Jinxi's kit would be the Unison buff that she can trigger once she activates Illuminous Epiphany. The Unison buff will act as a second concerto meter, enabling for more intro and outro skills to be activated from the team. This buff is truly game breaking, as more intro and outro skills will allow you to shred through the guard of enemies insanely quick. So as great as Jinxi is as a main DPS character, she is able to technically provide some support too, as she enables her allies to deal those intro and outro skills, which really bumps up Jinxi's value. Moving on to team synergy and flexibility now. As mentioned earlier, Changli will be able to slide into both main DPS and sub DPS positions, so there's many team comps Changli will be amazing in. The most popular team I would imagine would be Encore as the main DPS, Changli as the sub DPS, and Verina as the support. Encore is a strong main DPS character, being fast paced and can deal great damage. However, since launch, Encore has just been missing out on that vital fusion support for her team, so I'm sure players that main Encore are definitely glad Changli is able to finally provide Encore with that boost in fusion damage and Resonant Liberation damage. Also, you can quick swap Changli in to pop her Resonant Liberation, which immediately shoves her into the Fiery Feather state, allowing you to deal insane burst damage whilst Encore's abilities are on cooldown. Verina needs no explanation, as everyone should know how valuable she is and objectively being the best support in the game. Another great synergy would be Changli as the main DPS and Taoqi being the sub DPS. Since majority of Changli's damage scales on Resonant skill damage, Taoqi would be an amazing support since her outro skill is able to boost Resonant skill damage by 38%. So the two titans of personality would actually synergize very well with each other, as you could provide Taoqi with the 25% Resonance Liberation damage boost, which would benefit her as her liberation does hit pretty hard. Of course, Yinlin would synergize well with Changli too, as she can pretty much synergize with anyone, providing them with a 25% Resonance Liberation damage boost and can deal electro-coordinated attacks. So you can constantly provide both Yinlin and Changli with a 25% Resonance Liberation damage boost, enabling the both of them to deal a lot more damage with their Resonance Liberation. Last but not least, Havoc Rover will synergize very nicely with Changli, as Rover will receive that 25% liberation damage boost, which will buff Rover's strongest ability. Changli will be a very flexible character due to her outro skill enabling any character to deal increased Resonance Liberation damage and the ability to switch in to deal great burst damage. However, one thing to consider is Changli's value will increase with time and with more fusion characters releasing, as she will be the best in slot sub DPS character for fusion characters for a long time, just like Yinlin with Electro. Not to take away from how great of a main DPS she will be, but at some point she will eventually be power crept, whether that's in 6 months or 2 years. Now for Jinxi's team synergy and flexibility. Unlike Changli being more of a hybrid character, Jinxi would be amazing just as a main DPS character. However, I do want to stress, depending on how quick Jinxi can rotate to activate the Unison buff, she might actually find some usage as a sub DPS. Dealing insane burst damage and a second concerto meter would be one of the most valuable things to bring with you into combat. Jinxi's best team for sure would be with Yinlin and Verina, as the both of them can deal coordinated attacks. Coordinated attacks will enable Jinxi to obtain more stacks of incandescence, which increases the damage multiplier of a Luminous Epiphany. So if you truly want to tap into Jinxi's insane damage dealing potential, you would want to pair Jinxi up with coordinated attackers for sure. So Mortefi would also work, as he can deal fusion coordinated attacks. Aside from the coordinated attackers, Taoqi would also be a great sub DPS choice due to the exact same reason with Changli. Majority of Jinxi's high damage potential scales from resonant skill damage, so Taoqi would simply buff her resonant skill damage by an additional 38%, which is massive. However, the value of coordinated attacks for Jinxi is also massive, since you can gain more stacks of incandescence. So as great as an option Taoqi would be as a sub DPS, I personally would recommend running a sub DPS that can deal coordinated attacks. The same would apply for Spectra Rover. They would be a great sub DPS since they deal great burst damage, heals the team, and shred Spectra res from enemies, enabling Jinxi to deal more damage. But the priority would be to obtain as many stacks of incandescence as you can for Jinxi. I don't want to delve too much into sequence nodes, but this is why there is so much value placed on Jinxi's sequence node too, as she is able to obtain all 50 stacks of incandescence while staying out of combat for more than 4 seconds. So with S2, the value of sub DPS characters dealing coordinated attacks will drop completely down to the same level as other sub DPS characters now, providing you with a lot more freedom and flexibility. Coming back to reality now, the major difference between Jinxi and Changli's team flexibility is that Changli is able to slide into many team comps, supporting them and dealing great damage. Jinxi is a bit more restricted, as teams are built to support her instead, and has certain characters that will benefit her a ton more over others, meaning if you wanted to experiment with allies that deal no coordinated attacks, you would be hindering Jinxi's damage potential. So even though Jinxi can deal more damage than Changli, she loses a bit of flexibility. Now there is something to bear in mind. Similar to Changli, Jinxi will become even better with time, as there is no dedicated spectral buffer in the game. So I would imagine the character that drops with the outro skill boosting spectral damage might just be a coordinated attacker too, which would literally tick all of the boxes in being the best in slot support for Jinxi. So as great as Jinxi is now, just know her peak is yet to come and has potential to be an even more dangerous DPS character. Finally, the value both Changli and Jinxi will ultimately have for your account and the longevity they hold. Both Changli and Jinxi are amazing characters, as both can offer unique benefits to the team, being a godlike outro skill and a second concerto meter. However, you should favor summoning for the character you can make more use out of, and your account is better suited too. So if you are in desperate need for a main DPS character to help you clear through Tower of Adversity or hologram bosses, along with having characters such as Yinlin, Mortefi and Verina in your account, picking up Jinxi would be the better choice. If you are someone that mains Encore and would prefer more team flexibility, allowing you to experiment and enjoy various teams, Changli might be the option for you. Both characters are going to have insane longevity, since they aren't going to drop a better fusion buffer for years possibly, and I very much doubt they'll introduce a second character with the unison buff, as you would likely shred through enemies' guards way too quick for them to pose a challenge. Again, if Jinxi is able to rotate through her skills quick enough to be playable as a burst sub DPS, she might just become the most valuable character in the game due to the unison buff. So taking Jiyan for example, being another powerful main DPS character, he would only deal massive damage and becomes unusable later on as he can't provide anything else to the team. So Jinhsi is going to be the best main DPS due to not only hitting insanely hard but providing some support to the team. Overall, it will be completely down to you. Both characters are insanely good, so either one you decide to pick up, they will definitely bring some huge benefits to your account, combat wise and aesthetically. Last thing I wanted to mention, I don't want to give the impression that you shouldn't pull for a character if you don't have the right team for them, as you'll always be able to pick up characters for their team later on. So if you really like Jinhsi but you don't have Yinlin or Verina, you can of course pick them up later. So there's nothing to stress about, and most importantly, just pick up the character you like. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also drop a comment on which character you will be picking up in 1.1. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.